What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Monster Truck Outlaws of the West podcast. My name is MJ. I'm back. Had some technical issues last week. Computer ended up crashing. Couldn't get it back up. But I'm glad to be back. I'm excited for today's episode. We have one of the great drivers. Guy has been in this business a long time. But without that, let's bring in my other host here. Let's bring in Vincent. Vincent, how's it going, buddy?
Doing pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Doing great.
Well, like you said, we got the legendary Terry Woodcock going to join us in just a few moments. I mean, Terry's been accomplished so much in this industry. It's kind of just amazing. So without further ado, let's bring the man of the hour on, Terry Woodcock.
The Cyclops driven by Terry Woodcock.
How's it going, Terry?
Good, great soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
How's it going? The man of the
It's hard to
hour.
recognize you. Is that really Terry Woodcock? What's up?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with the beard here. I said I wasn't going to shave it until this whole epidemic was over, and I don't know if I'm going to make it that long. I'm getting pretty burned out on it.
This is what the pandemic has done to this man.
Yes.
I need to grow out my hair myself. I'm starting to, but let's talk about the monster truck industry, the motorsports industry. Not a lot of people know. How did you get started in the motorsports industry, and how did that lead to you getting your first monster truck?
Well, I'm going to blame it on my mom because when I was about 10 and a half, she bought me a mini bike. She bought a couple of mini bikes for us boys, and it started there. From there, my only dream was motocross, and I went to motocross, and from there I got into street racing and racing on the track, and eventually ended up building cars into four-wheel drives, and kind of took it from there and just kept going bigger and bigger. I was raised on a farm and an Air Force base, so if I wasn't somewhere at an Air Force base, then I was somewhere around a farm, and I just kind of took the two together and started building stuff. Everybody figured I was crazy, and they're probably right, but man, I had a great life.
Right? Everyone has their opinion on what everyone does, but you're talking about building your own cars and started off in the with like the mini bikes and anything like that. Do you remember one of the first vehicles that you built?
As far as a monster truck,
No,
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh. Yeah, monster trucks. I started off building cars into four-wheel drives. I drove over the first cars in a '69 Dodge Charger RT that I had all jacked up, and it just went from there. It went crazier and crazier, and then I was in New Mexico at that time. Everybody said, "Oh, you got to go out to California." I didn't know anybody out here at all, and I just came out here in a pickup truck, towing my four-wheel drive Dodge Charger with my motorcycle, and got a job in the oil field. Took me about 2 months to find a job in a four-wheel drive shop, and just kept going from there.
Awesome. We actually have a first comment here from Levi Shones. He wants to know, would you bring back the Robo Shark?
That was a truck that I really had a lot of expectations for. We had gone to a lot of work at Ed's 4x4 repair building this head, and it was all three-dimensional, and we had the fins. The teeth were made out of this poly material. It was really cool, and as you stepped on the throttle, the mouth opened, the jaws would open. So the more aggressive you were with the throttle, the more aggressive the sharks looked because the mouth was opening up. And just ended up with a different chain of bad events and different turn of bad events, and ended up not getting the parts back from the fiberglass shop. So we just threw some paint on there real quick and ran it like that. There's a lot of trucks I want to bring back. I've had people ask me if I minded if they ran this name or that name, and the only one I've really, there's a couple of them I've not wanted to let go and I haven't let go, but I would have probably if they hadn't come out with other shark trucks already. I would say at this point wouldn't really be that unique.
Well, I think it's unique. You talk about the moving mouth when you get on the throttle. I think that's pretty cool. But going on the topic of the past, what was your mindset when you came up with the Cyclops name? What's the story behind Cyclops?
Well, I can't take credit for that. I've never tried to take credit for that. That was Fred and Gary Dykeman in Tucson, Arizona, built that first truck. It used to be a Pepsi truck to haul Pepsi. They built it into a tractor tire mud bogger, and they had a pretty mean engine in it. And back then, when you mud bogged, it wasn't mud drags. It wasn't 6 inches. It was 6 feet of mud. And then they sold it to Gary Gardner in Bakersfield. And then he had it. He's the one that developed and changed it to red, white, and blue, and they developed the eyeball. And I just worked with them throughout. And then when we built the second one, Tom Finch, myself, and Robert built it. We basically built it out in the dirt in a cotton field in front of a barn. A lot of trucks were built in Bakersfield in the dirt, quite a few. And from there, it went away. There was a lot of, again, unfortunate events that happened with that truck. And it took me years and years and years to get my hands on the original stuff. But as soon as the name was abandoned, I got it again, locked it up, and came out with the 3D head. That's when everybody was, doing the 3D trucks. And I had a lot of ideas. And when you go to talk about having something built like that, you realize the expense. I was trying to figure out a way to have something that when I did roll over, not if, but when, the damage would be minimal and the truck would be unique. It seemed to be one or the other. It was definitely a line there. Either the kids loved it or it scared them. And I'd see them in their parents' arms crying, not wanting to get close to the truck. And that's part of the reason I pulled it. I mean, I do this for the fans, but our fans might be 8 or 88, but still seeing those kids cry approaching the truck, that killed me. I was like, I have all this money into this body, but I don't want to see kids getting scared. So, I mean, I might, on the Cyclops one, I might develop it a little bit different, get rid of the teeth. I think make it look a little happier. I don't know. I always wanted to bring that back in a different form. A few of the trucks I've had in the past, some of the chassis designs, I have all my chassis. We designed them on the floor with soapstone, but I wrote everything down. I've got blueprints for everything, and a couple of the trucks, for certain reasons, were my absolute favorites. The Generation X truck was like a wet rag or like a cat. You could throw it any direction, and it just landed on all four. I actually built the following truck, which everyone called the wheelie truck, even though it won every race in Starbird's money shows. It was the wheelie truck. I could take off from a dead stop and stand it up. That was a fun truck. The reason I built that so, I would have to say, ill handling was because I got bored in Generation X because it was so easy to drive, and you weren't going to get in that strange position with it. So I put the motor way up, way back, shortened the wheelbase, and went for a ride. And it took me for a ride. Several weeks out in a row that first year, I was on my lid.
So you talk about running that truck. What was it like running the WWF trucks, WWE trucks? What was it like running those trucks as well as the Heartbreak Kid?
It was great. I especially loved going to the wrestling matches because at that time, apparently, although I was quite a bit taller than the Heartbreak Kid, I guess I resembled him. And then my brother Dave was driving Stone Cold and definitely resembled him. And we'd go to the wrestling matches and just had a great time. They treated us great. I never sold so many T-shirts in my life. It was amazing bringing in that new demographics, because now you're taking your monster truck fans, but you're also adding your wrestling fans, and they were very passionate, and it was very interesting. I mean, that's probably the hardest we ran our trucks for Freedom Racing is 97, 98, 99, and we were always out to win, and I love that. I love racing for money. I love real racing. I've said this since the 80s, we're entertainers, but we all got some racer in us. I mean, when I was doing the mud bogging, I was a racer. When I was doing the motocross, I was a racer. And we all got racer in us, but it's a lot more important in this business to be a good entertainer. You treat your fans well because that's why you're here, and enjoy doing what you're doing. Like I say, if you would have told me this, if you'd have told my guidance counselor this, he'd have said, no way. For me to be able to have so much fun, I can't really call it a job. I mean, I've spent my whole life having a blast. It just doesn't get any better now.
Is like the quote says, I believe, do something you love. You never have to work in your day in a day in your life. But we were talking about the 3D body or the 3D hood on the Cyclops. Now you're running the 69 C60. Do you plan on putting if you do end up wanting to bring back that 3D hood, do you plan on putting that on the C60 or on a different body?
I've got a couple of bodies, and it was actually built and designed around the C10, but I can certainly clearance the sides. I was going to do some modifying anyway. I was going to lose the teeth on it, so it'll probably go on the C60. The thing about the C60, it has to be so tall because I didn't want to cut away any of the grill, because then you lose that C60 look, and I certainly didn't want to cut away my wheel wells because there again is the C60. So I found myself that getting the truck up taller than I liked it to be, higher than I liked it to be, but I just can't cut away at that. Almost all my trucks across the front, I'd cut half the grill off. So if it was dual headlight, I'd leave one set of headlights and half the grill. And always, probably every one of my trucks at one point or another, and most of the time, had to drive it like you stole it upside down on the front grill. And got a few pictures of that upside down. But yeah, I really like the original look, but I think I kind of got the effect I wanted when we first brought it back and brought it back with the C60. Went to a lot of work and expense to make that front end. Stretched the front end 14 inches, stretched the cab 6 inches, stretched and raised the flares up, and then built an identical set of flares to go on the bed, which wasn't how the original was, but I wanted the truck to look like a toy when it was done. I wanted it to look like a toy, and so I went ahead and flared the rear wheel wells. When I do it again, I'll probably do a regular stock bed, but I can still use the C60 front end and put the head on it, but we'll probably lose the flares because it won't look right with part of a flare and then a head. So
makes sense. I'm excited to see that when that does come out, if it does come out. But why don't you tell us about? I heard you got a new chassis recently. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that new chassis you acquired?
Well, you mean the race one that we're running now? We built it out in Illinois, last project in the shop, and brought it out here now. We made it a little bit longer wheelbase, and basically I watched a little bit of TV and went, well, they're going for it. That's some serious air. So fortunately, all the Freedom Racing chassis since 1989 have had a double hoop over the driver. So I have people that have some of my old trucks that said they were glad it had that double hoop because when the rules changed and they had to add some Xing, it was pretty easy because the double hoop was already there. Well, we went with all that, the double hoop, but we added 31 more bars than we usually have in a chassis, just because of the abuse that we knew we were going to put it through. It's still hard for me to take something out there and destroy it, tear it up. I came from the beginning when everything was chrome and shiny and tall and fancy, and you drove over the cars and you waved at the crowd, and you could take it right after the show. The next day you could go to the World of Wheels, go to a car show. So it's tough. I mean, during the WWF or now WWE days, we tore up a lot of trucks. We got really good at fiberglass, but that was part of the thing. We were being sponsored by somebody, we were representing somebody, and that's what they wanted, and we gave them what they wanted. But in turn, we made so much money in novelties and T-shirts and toys and pictures that it offset that additional cost of tearing stuff up. We'd roll trucks on Friday night. We'd stay up all night Friday night fiberglassing and getting everything back together. Then we'd go to sleep Saturday morning. We'd be back at it, and we'd touch up, paint it, duct tape it. I mean, I've painted Cyclops before. I've taken a roll of red, a roll of white, and a roll of blue duct tape to the paint store before, and I said, I want these colors. Because then when you wreck the truck and you put it all back together, you can literally put duct tape on the outside, cut it with an X-Acto knife, and people have sat there and said, no way you wrecked this last night. And I've literally had people accuse me of lying about that truck being the one that was rolled, the night before. But it was, I don't know, one of the things I thought was pretty neat. I had every paint shop going, well, we got a lot better blues than this, or we got a lot better reds than this. And I go, no, I want them to match that duct tape. And there's many pictures and many videos of that truck running, and it's covered in duct tape because it's been upside down a lot.
So I heard you have been doing some work in the shop recently, working on some projects. So what are those projects?
We've got a lot of projects. We're working on a TV show, so we can't finish anything because then we lose our content for the show. And we haven't sold the show yet. We've had a few negotiations, and I work in the film industry. I've worked in the film industry for around 20 years now. So I kind of know a little bit about the ins and outs, and I'm just not going to sell myself short or sell the truck short for the show. So I want a little bit more than the average guy. You come to a guy and say, hey, we want to do a show, and a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, well, I want final rights of editing. I want to approve your editing. I don't want you to make monster truck people look like Neanderthals. I refuse to let them change things and edit things to make us look like we're screaming and yelling at each other, throwing jacks through the windshields, or being idiots. I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that we're going to do that are going to make it a fun show, but I think you can do that without the negative drama and without looking like idiots. So that's the hardest part I'm having of getting the show tied in. But the trucks that we have, I mean, I'm trying to get all, and we do have all iconic trucks. But we have just Jim Oldecker's Rolling Thunder. That's the only one that's going to be a tribute. And then we have Orange Blossom Express Special Tank. That thing is, I mean, I can't wait to do that one. It's just so neat. And we've been working on it. We've been working on everything a little bit. We've been spending a lot of time rounding up parts and doing tedious little jobs so that filming will go easier. But other than doing the blue truck so they can see the quality of here's what it's like when we get it and here's what it's like when we're done, we don't want to finish anything else. As much as we want to, we can't. I mean, there'll be a time when if the show doesn't sell and we don't get it, we're just going to finish the trucks. But got some great ideas for the show. We want to bring in guest builders every week, like bring in 6 guys. We're going to have 3 or 4 guys here all the time. Bring in about 6 guys for a week at a time. People will be getting their calls and their emails and trying to work out deals, different people. Most of them will be monster truck industry people. There'll be some other people that have been involved in the monster truck industry, but I really want to keep it fairly close to that. But we've got some fabricators that have built some stuff for monster trucks before. I want to bring them in, and we all just want to work at it. We've got a room set up with a huge glass windows. We want to set up a camera, and we're going to set some stools out there. And we want to bring in like 3 or 4 people, the original owners, builders, and drivers. And we realize in some of these situations they might not get along so well anymore, or some of them might no longer be with us. But we're going to try to bring in the people we can, interview them, and talk to them as you see behind them the truck being tore apart. And then each episode is going to show the 6 new people come in, work for the week on that episode, getting as much as they can get done or whatever we have planned, which is always going to be a little bit more than seems possible because that gives it the excitement that you want in a show. And then those 6 will leave and the next 6 will come in. During this entire time, we're going to have viewers voting on what truck they want restored next. And on the last episode of the first season, and each season, we will draw the name of the people who voted. We're going to let them know what truck is going to be restored next. But we're also, prior to that, we're going to be flying in the winning vote along with one other person, because a lot of times we realize that the winner might be under 18. So we're going to have an adult and a kid or whatever. It'll be 2 people, hotel rooms, flights, transportation. we'll bring them in, and then when we debut the truck that was just restored, the winner will get to ride shotgun in it, because every one of these trucks, except the tank, has a passenger seat. So we'll be able to do that, and I think that'll excite people. And then after we do that, the last portion of that last episode, we're going to announce the truck that's next, and we'll bring it in and we'll start to tear it apart. And I think that'll bring back our viewers for the next season.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. But we're going to answer some viewer questions. We got one from Levi Shones. He wants to know, what are some of your favorite places to perform?
I tell you, I always loved it doing Daryl Starbird's show in Tulsa. It was for money. It was for real. Nobody was laying down. Nobody was not trying to win, because every round you won, you got paid more. And whoever won the most rounds got bonus money. Went there 9 years in a row, and I got the money, and I enjoyed it. I loved doing that. I also liked Salinas, especially back when it was a 3-stack, when it was a long straight track before they redid the grandstands. I loved doing that. And back then you're bringing in 14, 16 trucks, running for guys like Dave Matthews and putting on a great show and having barbecues in such a friendly atmosphere. I remember doing shows where it'd be Gary Porter and Dennis Anderson, and those guys would have you laughing so hard you're just like, shut up, because your sides are hurting you. Your cheeks are hurting you. It's just nonstop. Those guys are hilarious. And back in the day, a long time ago, maybe some guys will admit it, maybe some won't, but a lot of us used to sleep in tents at the fairgrounds. And I'll tell you what, a good weekend was when you found a fresh bale of hay to put down before you put that tent down. It was, everybody thought we were just rock stars running all over the place, staying at the Hilton and everything else. And there might have been a few guys staying at some places, but most of the time, if the weather permitted it, we were camping out. And we had some great times. You talk about, an atmosphere, like a family atmosphere. Everybody did whatever it took to get the other guy going. We helped everybody out. It didn't matter who it was, and it didn't matter what. It was just so good to have all these people that are all going for the same thing, and that's making sure the people in those stands come back the next year or the next night or the next show. So.
Right. It's always eventful going to shows and seeing the different people you see there, especially back then. I haven't had the chance to go out there yet, but we do have another fan question here from Travis Palm. He wants to know, who is one of your favorite drivers to race against?
Oh, I tell you, I'm going to do this in a 2-part. I'm going to do it from before and then after I came back, because I remember I was around. I remember when Dan Runte had his first show and all these guys coming along. I always remembered watching the foot trucks and the barefoot trucks and the Gravedigger trucks. And it was always fun to race Dennis, because you never knew what he was going to do. So you either wanted to win by a lot, stay far enough ahead of him that you were a witness, not a victim in that crash, or else, you just stay beside him and watch what he's doing. But, he was always all out. I just respected him so much for running that truck. No matter what, if he was going to lose money, he was going to lose money, but he wasn't going to ever lay down. So I always liked racing Dennis. Always liked racing Tom Mintz. Tom Mintz and I had some of the closest figure 8 races I've ever had in my life. I'm sure he's had a lot more, and probably doesn't even remember a lot of the races we had, but I remember having some great Chicago-style racing with Tom. Definitely that. Anytime you lined up against Barefoot, especially Fred, whether it was Fred, or even after Todd Frolick was no longer working for me, he went to work for Barefoot. And I loved it. We always stayed friends, remained friends. I remember helping him taking the transmission out of that truck at several shows. But, man, it was fun to line up with him, because I knew he wanted to beat me. And I knew I'd have to be right off the line. And if I even for 1 split second hesitated, he's going to pass me right out of the gate. But he usually passed me in the air anyway. That's the thing about that Barefoot Dodge. Man, those guys would come on. You could hear it over your own engine. You're like, here it goes. I'm in the air, and I'm going to get past. There's no traction in the air. He'd go by me. So I liked racing Todd Frolick. I liked that a lot, because we had a long history. We spent 4 months running up and down the road wide loading the trucks when he worked for me. We started in Washington and went into Oregon and went into Idaho and Montana. We went into Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico, and Arizona. For 4 months, we never took the tires off. It was great. We had a lot of fun. So when I got to race him in barefoot, when he was running barefoot, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. There's just so many. I can't even begin to say, because I think about, lining up against Runty, watching him start and then watching him get so good. And I always liked Andy Brass. I like the ones that you really knew were going to give you a run for your money, not lay down. And then if you did get them, they said, yeah, I just was taking it easy. But there's so many of them. Now, when I came back, I had watched a little bit of stuff before I built the truck, and I went out to the World Finals twice while I was building the truck, and came out as a guest, Gary Schott. And I watched everybody, and I'm like, man, this Donald with this Titan truck, man, that's a beautiful truck. And the dude's on it. I mean, I liked his driving style. I thought, man, I'll never get this guy. And then got a show with him up in Red Bluff. I think it was the 20-year anniversary for the Red Bluff show, and lined up against him. And I was everything I had, and somehow I got him. And I couldn't believe how good it made me feel to be able to beat him, looking at him like this guy's going to take me out. Now, we raced several more times over the weekend, and he made sure he made up for that and beat me several times. But it felt good to be in front of him at that finish line. I was like, yes. I mean, to still be able to get excited, it's going to be 5 days. On the 22nd, I'll be 60. So for me to still get that excited in the truck, it's like, yeah, I'm in the right place. I still need to be doing this. I'm still loving it. So.
We have a question from Magnum Scuro from the Tournament of Destruction in Tucson, Arizona. He wants to know, are you going to bring Cyclops back to Tucson?
Magnum, I am. We're bringing that tank there, too. I love going there. He took that event over. He has brought it up so much. He's made it such a great event. I don't care if you've been there once, twice, or several times. He has stepped it up. That show is great, and I love running with Sammy. I always look forward to running Tucson and seeing Sammy. Rod comes. I get to see Jacob, and I love running with Jacob because he's so enthusiastic. It just reminds me of myself as a younger me, and we had a lot of fun. We did a team freestyle kind of by accident. I got sent out there early, and then he stayed out there, and Sammy gave him a go for it, and we had a blast. He enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. The kid runs that vet hard, and he's definitely a fun guy to run with, and we had a lot of fun doing the team freestyle. That Tucson show, I'm looking so forward to it. I really am, and he wants to bring the tank over. I told him, I'll bring the tank, but I'm not racing Sammy in the tank. I'm too old to get beat up that hard. We'll do some exhibition.
Oh, boy.
Terry, you've been in this in a long time. I see that little silver plaque you got there over the shoulder. That's a International Monster Truck Hall of Fame plaque. You want to tell us about being inducted in the class of 2016 into the International Monster Truck Hall of Fame?
It was such an honor. I was so busy filming at that time that, to be honest, I wasn't keeping up on things. I didn't have Facebook then. I didn't know anything about social media. I was working. We were doing 122-hour weeks. I was filming Dukes of Hazzard and all these different big features, Batman, Fast and Furious and stuff. And I had no idea this existed. And I got a call from Chris Parrish, and they're asking me questions and explaining it to me, and I'm checking it out, and I'm going, wow, this is pretty cool. And I really didn't expect to make it. I thought, well, yeah, I'd give it my shot. And so they were asking me, just different things like you guys are about the sport, about the history and everything else. And when I found out that I was not only nominated, but that I made it in, it was pretty cool. It was nice to have my brother Dave there, that's always been there by my side, always helping me out. And my brother Danny couldn't come, but my daughter Tori was there, and I think it was a good moment for her, because she saw what this sport meant to me, and it was so great to go up there and see what they're doing. And I've always loved the history of it. Some people say it's just because I'm an old timer, so I like the old stuff, but I don't want to see the history get changed. And sometimes I feel like people are trying to change the history of the sport. And I think all these old trucks getting restored and people talking about them and bringing them back. Yeah, you're not going to make any money with these old trucks, but I made a lot of money over the years, and I make decent enough money now where if I can afford to restore these things, I'm going to restore most of them I can get my hand on.
We have a question from Dan Borba. He wants to know, do you prefer racing or do you prefer freestyling?
That depends. It really does. It depends on the track, and it depends on who's there, because if somebody's there that's just going to roll their truck and wreck it, then no, I don't enjoy it, because I could go out there and do a fabulous freestyle. I could do a great wheelie. I could do something. I could save it, but the guy who rolls it's going to be the one who wins. Other than that, I love doing freestyle. I love doing wheelies. I love taking it to the edge. I love racing, but I like racing on tight, hard courses, something that you really got to drive. Because if you just bring a lot of horsepower and you got one stack of cars, I mean, I enjoyed doing the indoor, no dirt, concrete shows. I had a lot of fun doing those because I dialed my truck in for it. You know, the tires were right. I tipped my ring and pinion down, and I pulled the front wheel so I didn't hit the first car with my front wheels and hit it with the back tires and scooted across them, and they're still going up, and I'm already at the end. So depending on the track, I mean, I loved racing, like we talked earlier. I really enjoyed racing Donald. Really enjoyed that. I enjoy racing Tom Metz. I enjoy racing these guys who are competitive. Anytime you line up against Jimmy Cretin, you know he's going for it, and it makes you want to try that much harder, because if you get it, you know you earned it.
All right. We have another question here from Lee Plato. He wants to know if you're going to let any more show announcers test drive Cyclops pre-show.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Yeah, I was doing a little shock testing and doing a little stuff at one of John Borba's shows, and I tell you what, John's straight up guy, absolutely had no reason to pay me, and he did. And that right there showed me the guy was straight up. He took care of me. My truck got destroyed. Don't get me wrong, I didn't make any money because the stuff that got destroyed was twice as much as the pay. But that makes it, when you do some of the other shows, like, you know, who doesn't want to do Del Mar? It's usually beautiful weather. You get to really dial the truck in. You get to run with a lot of great guys. You get to have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. They barbecue again, like I said before. When they make it that type of environment, you love it so much more. When you look at that's a lot of shows, but then you're doing it for somebody like John, who just turned around and took care of you. You know, it's hard to say no.
Another question from Daniel Smith. He wants to know, what was it like when Spin Master made the Cyclops truck, and will Spin Master make it in the 124 variation, the 124 scale?
Well, my first experience with the toys, of course, we did them years ago, and then I did them in 2010, and then I was at World Finals, and I was actually approached by the people from Hot Wheels, and the lady that was speaking to me wanted to do not only the blue, I call it old blue, but the original Cyclops, and the race truck. And they were going to do it in two different sizes, and they were going to package it in the then and now. So I was looking at two sizes of the blue one single, two sizes of the red, white, blue single, and then packaging in one size of then and now. So it sounded really good. Well, then everything was turned over to Monster Jam, and we ended up, they kept sending me, or they didn't keep, but I told them what I wanted. I expected the flares and the eyeball, and I wanted very realistic. I wasn't going to settle for, let's take this guy's truck and paint it up like Cyclops. So when it got done, they sent me I approved of it. I mean, they were spot on. They got it how I wanted it, and I was very happy. And I waited and waited for the blue one to come out, and it still hasn't. And I waited and waited for the second size to come out. It still hasn't. And I waited and waited for the then and now, and it still hasn't. Now, I know that there's a new toy out because it changes color when you put it in water. I haven't got one yet, but I just found out that a very good friend of mine, Randy, that I work with in 399 Teamsters got me one. So I'm going to actually have one to add to my little collection back here behind me. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do toy-wise. I'm sure my contract's up, and I would be very interested in talking to him. I just really want to see I'd really like to see the then and now packaging. I'd like to see it a little bit more because, you tie up your name for 3 years. You really need to see that you're getting the most out of it.
For those that haven't seen you, perform in arenas, stadiums, fairgrounds, you name it, what would you describe your driving style like for those that haven't seen you compete?
Well, it seems like anytime it makes YouTube, my driving style's lame. It's like there's something wrong with the truck, so I'm trying to just get it through. It's a sad thing to say, but I mean, when people come to see, a certain amount of trucks run, and you're wounded, whether it's a transmission or whether it's the rear end of the transfer case, whatever it is, I carry a lot of spare parts, and I mean a lot of spare parts. I'm the guy who everybody comes to my trailer for shocks, shock shafts, for gears, for just anything you can imagine. I've got tons of parts, but every now and then you have a rough week or a rough 2 weeks in a row, and I've had a couple of times where she was wounded, transmission problems or converter or something, and you got to go through the paces. And I keep telling myself, just don't do it anymore. Just tell them you're done and go home without your pay and fix your truck and come back, because I hate looking on YouTube and seeing a run that I'm not proud of. Now, my driving style, in the beginning, I was getting in trouble all the time because they didn't want you going fast over the cars. They wanted you to pull up on two of the trunk. Two cars go side by side on the ground with the tires taken off. You drive up on the trunk, up over the hood, and then you get out and you wave. Back then, no helmet, no race suit, no seat belt, no race seat. And if you went a little fast, you got in trouble. Well, then when we started running the helmets, we were usually 4 cars and pop the front wheels on and then take off across them. And, sometimes you stay in it, you get some air, and maybe you clear them. And they didn't like seeing that either. So I had other people come to me just going, man, you need to lighten up. You're a little crazy. I look at now what's going on, and it's like, man, I'm not that crazy, because some of the stuff these guys are doing, man, I respect them. I don't want to destroy my equipment. I respect some of the stuff the guys are doing, don't get me wrong, and some of these guys that are out there that I don't really know very well or that I met at the World Finals, I was impressed with them because, they were respectful. They were nice to me. We talked, and, they told me different things as they grew up, so it made you feel old, but it also made you feel like, well, that's cool. They weren't arrogant and ignoring you or something. But now it's all about making sure you're putting on a good show. And if I see other trucks having problems, I'm probably going to back it down a notch or two. If you come to a show and it's got 6 trucks and right out of the gate, one's got a problem, and now you're down to 5, and after the first round, you're down to 4. Any good entertainer, and we are entertainers, is going to know everybody needs to just step it down a notch. I know it doesn't sound fair to the crowd, but I think anybody would rather see a good show. You can make close races without being 100% in the throttle, but putting on a good show, close races, a decent freestyle, rather than seeing one truck go out there all by itself because everybody broke, because everybody is on, full throttle, and you can't do it. So I guess as I've come back, I've noticed myself being a little more reserved. I love doing the wheelies, and I love, hitting stuff, but I'm also so safety conscious. It's just like, if I see, and I know I've had a few promoters say something to me, but never get mad at me. They've always respected the fact that I shut my truck off, and I'm like, no, those people down at the end need to get off the gates. Not just off the gates, away from the gates. Like, I make people move. And if people want to dislike me for that, I'm sorry, but I can't consciously run straight towards people. I just can't do it. So my driving style has changed a lot, especially since the WWF days, because then it's all out, whatever it takes. We'll put a new body on. We'll stir up some more fiberglass, lay down some more mat. Doesn't matter. We're we're going to tear this place down. And now I enjoy running, I enjoy winning, I enjoy beating guys, especially guys I'm not sure I can beat. And that's the ones that I'll run the hardest at. So I like running against those guys because it forces me to step it up. But I'm an entertainer.
Like you said, it's all about the fans. I've seen you run at a couple shows here locally. You always put on a show. We have a question here from Tim Welty. He wants to know if you could restore any truck, not including the ones that you've already done, what would it be?
Ooh. I tell you.
I'm putting you on the spot there a little bit.
Well, no, there's several. There's several trucks. It's like an addiction, though. I mean, everybody's going, don't you have enough? Well, it's like, well, they always say when you retire, sometimes you die a couple months after you retire. So I'm going to live forever because I got 20 years worth of restorations here. Gosh, that's such a hard one. I mean, I know some trucks that are being restored that if they weren't being restored, I'd like to. And I've had an opportunity for a couple of trucks I didn't move fast enough on. It's amazing how I can message somebody immediately, and usually I do it behind the scenes. And if they don't answer me, then I jump on the post and I make it more public. So in case they're not looking at their messages, they see it. And I try pretty aggressively, and I'm pretty adamant when I see something I want. I have people offering me stuff all the time. And don't get me wrong, there's a couple trucks that people are trying to get me to buy. I really wouldn't mind having. The problem is I like to restore them. So the ones that are finished, as much as I want them, as good of a deal as they might be, it's hard. It's like I wouldn't mind buying it to add into my film fleet for music videos, commercials, TV shows and stuff, movies. But it's hard for what I'm trying to focus on. Because right now, I got a small fortune that Smitty built. Roll bars. I got double doubles, double triples, double singles. I got single and double front bumpers with the hoops, rear bumpers, double solid, double broken, singles. I got 9 sea containers full of monster truck parts, tires, rims, bumpers. I got Warren Enforcer bumpers. I've got KC lights, just tons of them. I get offered stuff all the time, and if it's a good deal, I buy it. But I don't know.
Well, we've had this brought up the whole time during the podcast, and it's about time that we get an answer. Michael Keller wants to know, are you growing the beard out to be a mall Santa later this year in December?
Are you growing the beard out to do what?
To be Santa Claus when it comes December time.
That's so funny because, I go to the store, even with the mask on, I go to the store and people are like, it's Santa Claus. And then everybody I know, of course, I'm facetious. And everybody I know, seems to be the same. So I hear it quite a bit. I go over to a friend's house and they introduce me to their kids as Santa Claus. And I found a little something fun to do that probably freaks a few people out, but it's funny. I'll see a kid misbehaving, whether it's, in the store, in the parking lot or whatever. And I'll just walk up real close to them, not too close to be in their space, but I'll walk up kind of close to them, 6 feet away to be exact. And I'll say, hey, Santa Claus is watching you. And that kid straightens out, shuts up, walks right, quits arguing with their parent. They're looking at me with a smile on their face. And I go, thank you. So I'm having fun with it.
That's great.
No, there was a little deal I had to do where they asked me to grow my beard out a little bit. They just wanted a little bit, just a week growth or something. And then right then is when this all started. And I said, I'm not shaving until it's over. Well, I never thought it was going to be this long. This is weird. It's driving me crazy. And I haven't trimmed it or nothing. It's just whatever it is. I don't know how to take care of a beard. I just, clip across the mustache so every time I take a bite of food, I'm not chewing on hair. But that's about it.
Well, it's that time again. It's time for the philosophy segment. Let's bring on Phil Vicinanza.
What's going on, everybody? Great to be here.
What's up?
How's it going?
It's going good, Mr. Terry. I've learned quite a bit about you here this evening, and
Ah,
With my line of work and interest in monster trucks, I've always kind of become an historian of information. And you are one of the most fascinating drivers out there or team owner, because you've had your hand in so many different trucks with so many different names. And with all those, they have so many different stories. So I just find it's completely fascinating and super cool that I get to pick your brain a little bit this evening.
well, that's awesome. Thanks, man. I'm just living life and loving it.
I love it. I love it. So, like I said, you've campaigned a lot of different names, especially on your own trucks. But maybe what a lot of people don't know is that you're one of 5 people that have driven both a Bigfoot and a Gravedigger in some capacity in your career. What were those experiences like as we see the picture of you campaigning Bigfoot? What were those experiences like driving the most well-known monster truck names in the business?
It was an honor. I felt like it. I don't know if it's solidified is the word I'm looking for, but it just made me feel like I had done something right in the industry. To be able to have Bob and Jim come to me and ask me to run the truck, I was honored. I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, this is the truck I always look at, and this is the drivers I'm always watching, and the stuff is just unbelievable. And for them to feel like, like I was good enough to be in their truck, it was pretty exciting. I enjoyed running it, and same with Gravedigger, for Pablo to come to me and Dennis. My first opportunity for Gravedigger was the first time Dennis came out west, and he hurt himself. I think it was his ribs. It was his knee or his ribs. And he came to me and asked me, hey, if this doesn't get better by showtime, because I think this was a Tuesday, we were doing several shows for West Coast Promotions. I mean, a bunch of them. And then we were also doing stuff out here for Dave Matthews, Zizix Motorsports. And he asked me, and I was like looking at him like, I know this is a funny guy. Is he messing with me? And I'm like, if you're serious, I certainly will. And at that time I was driving always unnamed and untamed, but sometimes unnamed and untamed and nasty habits whenever we didn't have another driver. And at some point, Lyle Hancock had come along and started driving nasty. But I was driving those 2 trucks and had at least 3 of my trucks at the show. I was building the track. I was the show coordinator. I set up the show schedule, and I always had it down to 3 minutes, so I knew if I was wanting somebody to hurry up or slow down. But to be driving a couple trucks and doing that was like juggling chainsaws, as my brother would say. Pretty interesting, but I loved it. I love the thrill of just having so much going on. I always have. I still do. I create my own havoc by having so much to do. But when Dennis asked me that, I was like, absolutely, And I remember him saying, you don't win, make them remember you. It was like, if you don't think you're going to make it, you push harder. And I just thought, wow, this is great. And he ended up driving, so I didn't get to drive it. And that was early 90s. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, Dave Matthews had brought him out to the West Coast, and it was his first time out here. But that was nice. And then later on, when I ran Pablo's truck, again, it was a great honor for him to trust me with it, send me out with it. It was weird doing that because you're always the other guy and you're listening to the crowd cheering for Gravedigger, and you may or may not think you did better, or may not think that the run was that spectacular. And then when you're driving the truck and you're listening to that crowd, because you always know you're doing good when you can hear them over your motor with your helmet on, and the response they got and stuff. And I always knew 100%. I knew had nothing to do with me. It was that truck. But it was still nice to drive that truck and see the crowd's enthusiasm, and to know that everybody wants to go home from that weekend and say they beat Gravedigger. The same with Bigfoot. When you're running their trucks, I pushed harder than I pushed my trucks, but without trying to tear them up. Unfortunately, I rolled them both. I don't know how many. I didn't know there was only 5 people that drove both trucks. I don't know how many of them rolled them both. I don't think that's something to brag about. It's something that I was pretty bummed about. I don't like breaking up fiberglass, especially somebody else's. But it definitely pushed me to run harder because I saw how bad everybody wanted to beat me, and I was in those groups of people that would talk about those trucks and go, I'm going to beat him. I'm going to beat him. You know, trying to figure out how he's leading the line. And, you know, you learn tricks over the years. Flagmen are always better than lights if you're a real racer, because the flagman's going to twitch. He might step up on his heel of his right foot before he starts to run, which is what he starts to do before he raises or drops the flag. He may have the flag up and he's supposed to drop it, and he may roll it backwards just a hair before he drops it. That's when I leave. I leave when the guy's foot moves. I leave when the flag top moves. I don't wait for the rest. And it's like, man, you were on that. It's like you learn to read the flagger. And that's why lights, you can't read a light. You never know when they're going to flip that switch. But I love racing with a flagger because it didn't take very long for you to learn the guy's quirks, the things he did, and figure out how to do it. I love getting in the minds of other people when I race. I loved it when we had lights, when we actually had staging lights. It wasn't very often, but I learned this from drag racing. Is you pull up, you hit your first yellow light, another guy hit his first yellow light, another guy stage into his second, you know, and then you stage into your second. Some people called it dirty play. I call it good racing, because I'd stage into my first yellow, and after they staged into their second yellow, I'd just turn my head and stare at them, and stare at them, and stare at them, and eventually you'd see their helmet start turning towards you. Right when they start to turn, I roll into the next light, and then boom, right when they're looking at you, the light changes green and you're gone. You know? The games I love to play.
Always head games when you're on the line, and always when you're racing against stiff competition. And some of those competitors over the years was your own family. You know, your brother Dave,
yeah,
who drove your trucks, and many others, and your brother Danny, who drove the Dangerous Toy. Was there ever any increased pressure knowing that almost every weekend you're racing against some family member of yours?
You know, people used to ask me that all the time, and I don't know how true or just being a smart aleck I am, but I was the one standing at the pay window. So if my brothers beat me, I didn't care. You know, I'm going to put on a good show. I think there's nothing better than a close race. And I've told that to people before. It's like, you know, if there's just no reason to annihilate somebody in a race. And I have lost races before because I tried to make it closer when I knew I was going to have it. So it's bit me before, but close racing. But it's never, you know, even like when my brother went, he went over to Cretan's camp to Extreme and ran, and we did some shows together. And then he went to Foot, and we did shows together. The announcers always tried to make it something. They always tried to stir it, you know, and I'd be driving past my brother, look at him, and, you know, I'm just like shaking my head like, don't fall for it, you know. We go out there and we put on a good show, and in freestyle, we're smart. You put on a good show so you can run the next day. But I think a lot of other people expected there to be a lot, but it was, I mean, what better thrill in the world than line up at a race with one of your brothers, or in the next round with your other brother, and to get to spend that kind of time together with your family. I don't care if you're underneath the truck changing the transmission. It's just you're still with your family. You're still having a good time. No matter how hard you're working, no matter how tough it is. Loved it.
A lot of great competitors you competed against, especially in your own trucks. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier in our test session, and through the documentation that I do, there's been so many different people that have driven your trucks over the years. I don't think we'll ever know all the different truck and name combinations that have occurred over the years with Freedom Racing. But you've given a chance to a lot of people to have maybe their first chance or their first big break in the monster truck industry. A lot of different talents in your trucks. Levi Shones asked a similar question. Is there any in particular that stand out as like key teammates that maybe you gave a start to or had a lot of fun with on the road?
There was a bunch of them. I'll tell you, I mean, I should have wrote down drivers' names. There's so many guys. I mean, and don't get me wrong, when I say they started with me, I'm not trying to take the credit for what they became, because guys like Todd Frolick, he was a mud bogger, and I told him, hey, I got a bunch of shows. How you feel about driving a monster truck? Because his mud boggers were immaculate. He was such an awesome body and paint guy, and I knew he was going to make my team look so much better. And he drove truck, and he was just this key person that was going to be perfect for me. I literally went up to Washington, pulled over on the side of the road outside of Biggs Junction, and he jumped in, threw a bag in, and boom, he became a monster truck racer. Just like that. He went on, to drive barefoot, to drive Gravedigger, to drive a lot of trucks. Heck of a driver. And I always loved racing with him. I always loved running with him. He would help me. I'd help him. It didn't matter. I had people work for me that I never saw again, and I had a lot of people work for me that I did see out there. And I know I certainly wouldn't take the credit for the kind of driver Lyle Hancock became because, man, he was one heck of a driver. He could pilot that Gravedigger. But I was there in the beginning, when he came to work for Mike West and started getting in the truck. And I don't think he realized how big and heavy of a truck he was in because that nasty habit, 73-inch tall tires, big, heavy, tall truck. And, and he was out there, doing everything he needed to do and everything you could do with that truck. And I'm running unnamed and untamed. And, I'm sure he was trying to beat it, but even though Unnamed and Untamed was heavy truck, it was a lot lighter than that one. But he went on to be a great driver, and there's so many people. My brother Danny, he went over to Japan for a year with Vorian and ran it. And David, like I say, went off to a couple of other different teams and drove for other people here and there when they needed somebody. There's a lot of guys. Ed Gerber was like nobody you could ever meet in your life. He'd give anything to help you out. And he did so much for me. And I remember Pat being so young, and we took a Toyota pickup. And I say we, meaning everybody at Ed's, whoever, we all did something. And we put a front end in the back of that Toyota pickup and put a ram, rear steering. Back then there was no self-centering. We were all, you wanted it straight, you had to feel it. We fixed that Toyota up, sent him out there tough truck, and he must have been 12 when he was doing that. And he was just smoking everybody in these tough truck classes. And it took him a long time to figure out he had rear steering. But Pat, you could just see he was going to be a driver. He was going to drive. And I think he was 14 when he started driving the trucks. And it wasn't very long before Ed wanted to stick a blower motor in that truck Pat was driving. So we just worked out a deal, and they ended up with that truck, put a blower motor in it, and he'd go out and stomp me, one of my old owned trucks, more horsepower. His dad knew how to make a motor run, and he knew how to drive. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of people through the years. There's so many people that would jump in. I know Ken Deppy drove for me for a while. I had broken my leg. And he filled in for a winter. There's just lots of people here and there, like Jason Childress drove in Kentucky. And, well, he would be the perfect example of what I call toenailing it. I said something the other night about it. You couldn't see him in the truck because he had to squat down so far in that seat where he could reach the pedals because I like my pedals far away. So if I ever got knocked around, I don't worry about my foot pushing on the throttle because if you want the throttle down, you got to work to get the throttle down. But a lot of guys like that would just jump in here and there. I had friends all over the United States. Ken, a friend of mine up in South Dakota, he didn't go on to do any more racing, so people wouldn't recognize his name. And Rusty, a lifelong friend of mine up in Washington, Rusty Weed, he drove anytime I got in the area. My cousin, Steve McCabe, he'd drive all over the country. He had a good job and a family, and he was, a heck of a family man. But if he could break away, he'd come drive. And in fact, unfortunately, he got hurt in Great Falls, Montana, the same night that Jack Willman got hurt for Jack's last time getting hurt when he retired from driving. But yeah, there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people drove those trucks. I can't even remember. I remember there's times I let like the promoter's wife drive one, and the guy doing the back gate, his girlfriend drive one, and a girl I knew drive one. And there's times we have 4 trucks being ran by the 4 girls. It was fun. We had this powder puff race, and then we'd all get in the trucks and run them. But some of those girls, man, they listen. You say, push on that pedal as hard as you can, hit that shifter as soon as you take off, and hold on.
It's pretty cool to hear all the people you've given opportunities to, but we're reaching the hour mark, and it's time for our next segment. Here it is. It's time for the Explain That Photo segment where we bring a photo up from your social medias or a photo we found on the internet, etc. MJ, I'll let you take it away with the first photo.
All right, so
I don't
last night
know.
I was doing my research and doing some digging, trying to find a picture. So this is the one I found. So Terry, explain this picture.
Oh, that's my star right there. That's my number one fan. That's my little Tori Lynn, and we're up in Canada doing one of Rob Wallachuk's shows, which love going to Canada, love running in Canada, loved running for Rob. There was a little van there. They had some mini monster trucks. It was called the Booger Van, and she stood by it, or she sat by it in her chair and signed autographs. That's a Sharpie she's got in her mouth. And everybody that came to me for autographs, she signed. It was so fun. I mean, she's the light of my life. She's my reason for breathing, a little girl. And unfortunately, she doesn't want to drive. I told her, I said, I'll build you a truck, and you can make it pink and purple and covered in sparkles and gems and stones, whatever you want to do. But she's just not into it, unfortunately. But she loves riding her four-wheeler. She loves going out four-wheeler and stuff. But I think, honestly, she's afraid of hurting the truck. And I'm like, if you saw how many times I hurt it, you wouldn't let it bother you. But I think she sees how much I work and how hard I work, and she doesn't want to contribute to that. But, yeah, that's my star right there, my little rock star. That was Lloydminster, Canada.
That's great. Now I had my chance to show my picture that I wanted you to explain, so now I'm going to hand it over to my buddy Phil, and he's going to have you explain a picture here.
Okay.
Show me the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys are funny. They're your Sonic guys, the ones that are always in all the cars and stuff. And I was just talking on social media to one of the girls that did that commercial with, and she's like, I miss you. We got to do something. And I'm like, yeah, when are we going to do another commercial together? But that was neat. I have usually when the bodies are wrapped, they go to Cinema Vehicles, and Cinema Vehicles does all that kind of stuff for me. I actually have my spare body at their shop. It stays there, and then when I get a contract that needs wrapped, they just pull it down off the top of the shelf and wrap it. And so that was my Sonic commercial. A lot of fun. Pull it up, it sits right there, and make money. Love it. No scratches.
No scratches, an easy day on the set. Vinny, what's your picture?
Great food, too.
No, I'm sure.
Well, this picture I found thanks to Terry. Here's the picture. Here's the picture that I picked. Explain this.
I can tell you where that is. That's in Tri-Cities, Washington. Actually, I think it's Pasco. I think the place is called Ranch and Home. Doing a show up there. That's where, like, Rusty would drive for me, or Steve McCabe would drive for me. Well, usually one of my friends up there, my relatives or something. A lot of time when I traveled around, I have different friends. Anytime I'm around Bakersfield, Bobby Sellers would drive for me. But that was Tri-Cities. I have a collection of these pictures, quite a few, actually. I've got them from when I was filming Dukes of Hazzard in Baton Rouge. I don't know. It's something about walking past garden and farm tools. I have to get a picture with a couple of them. That's it. I don't know. I mean, the picture is what it is. I'm standing there taking a picture with garden tools.
Well, I got another picture I'm going to bring up right now, and this is a pretty cool one that I found. Probably one of my favorite out of the bunch. Explain this picture, Terry.
Oh, that was cool. That was a cool deal. Nothing like opening up the back of a plane and driving your monster truck out of it. They had my bike in there and my truck, and I love doing the air shows. Are always so much fun. And, I was raised on Air Force Base, so even though I had the long hair, which I think the only reason I had the long hair is because everybody else had to have short hair, and too many people told me to cut it, and I guess that's the rebel in me. But I got along with those guys all great. They were going to take me up, in the jets before, and of course for some reason they couldn't or whatever. But I remember the air shows were so much fun, riding in the semi truck with the jet engines, doing 315 miles an hour with an airplane upside down right over your head. All that stuff. A lot of fun. Yeah.
All right, we have another question here from Michael Keller. He wants to know what driver or drivers would you say had the biggest impact on your career, helping you raise the bar personally or teaching you a tip or a trick, etc.
Well, I don't know that I ever took any tips or tricks from anybody because I was always like trying to figure stuff out. As far as raising the bar, so many of them, like I said, Tom Metz, Dennis Anderson. I just can't say enough about Gary Porter. I mean, Mr. Consistency. It's like I felt like I want to be that. I want to be known for being consistent. Maybe I don't win all the time, but you can count on me to be there and you count on me to start the show and finish the show. So I took a lot from him as far as that. And I mean, all these guys are guys I've sold parts to over the years. I've made it a habit of being a Clark hoarder and having all these Clarks. And, you know, I've taken them and I bought them from Gary Porter. I've sold them to everybody. I bought them from everybody. But Gary, I learned a lot from just seeing that. And I did a show, and I'll never forget it. My daughter was only a couple weeks old, and I was wearing a plastic thing around my neck that had a picture of her. It was laminated. And I was doing a show there, and they had a pyramid. And I always looked up to Gary Porter, and I did a reverse wheelie on that pyramid. And inside the truck, of course, I'm backwards, upside, and I'm looking down at the stack, and I'm like, come on, waiting for the front tires to touch so I can tap the throttle and bring the back end back down. Well, I knew it was like close to a crash, and I also knew I hit it too hard, but I thought it probably looked pretty cool. But when Gary Porter came up to me and told me that is the absolutely coolest thing I have ever seen in a monster truck in my life, that meant a lot to me. That was cool. You know, I went out there and I did okay in the racing, but I think I broke a U-joint. It was the paved track, a long paved track, and I ended up breaking a U-joint. But doing that well in freestyle and then hearing somebody like him say something, that was pretty cool. Anytime I lined up against Tom Metz, I loved it. Anytime I lined up against Dan Runte, it was always going to be a race, always going to be a good one. So many guys, you know, after Todd went to Barefoot, I knew it was going to be a good race. I'd race David in one of Jimmy's trucks or the Bigfoot truck. You know, he wasn't going to be stupid. I wasn't going to be stupid, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be a good race. It was going to be a good race. And when I came back, I think the person that made me step it up in Red Bluff was definitely Donald in Titan because, I mean, I loved that truck. I loved his attitude. I really got to know him there. And to get across that line just one time in front of him. After that, the rest of the weekend, I was pushing it. I broke a lot of stuff there, you know, because I stepped it up more. And, of course, I put new parts in the truck, a bigger rear end, bigger axles. Anything that broke on my truck, I've replaced with bigger, better, more expensive. But he definitely made me step up to the plate.
We have another comment from Steve Curcio. He says, "You're a real good dude, Terry. Tell a story. Tell a war story from the early years. This should be interesting."
Oh, man, I don't know if he's referring to any particular war story because we have a lot of them. I don't know. Let me tell you one Steve will like. So we're in Lancaster, California, I believe, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. And Pablo's there with Gravedigger, and I'm there with two of my trucks, I believe. Maybe, yeah, it was probably Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels' Heartbreak Kid, and there was several other trucks there, decent field. And it was my brother's second show, David. He had just started because, unfortunately, my brother Danny had broke his back in Clark County, August of '97. That's when my brother David started. And so he was still, trying to be careful because, I mean, when he went to his first show, was the second half of Clark County. His second show was the one up in Oregon festival, Harvest Festival, and he aired the truck out. And now I remember it was the Sunny truck. He aired it out. I mean, there was nothing but 4 tires in the air. In fact, Christopher Allen ended up with that picture from the Hall of Fame, and David and I both signed it. Well, then he come down and doing the show for Steve, and I'm supposed to be driving the truck, but I got my brother in it. And he goes out there and he does his stuff, and he comes back, and Steve was, wanting more for his fans. Understandable. I'm wanting to teach my brother to have more seat time and, get better. So different tracks and stuff, he has more to learn. And Steve comes over, and I've known Steve for a long time. I mean, I know Steve from the concert days at the Bakersfield Inn back when it was Oingo Boingo and Walla Voodoo and Motley Crue and all this stuff. So we knew each other already. But he comes over and he makes sure I understand he's not happy. At that point, I threw the helmet on and I went out there and I burned it down. I mean, I burned it down. When I got done, I'm driving past Pablo. He gets out of his truck. He's next to run. He gets out of his truck and he throws his hands up in the air. And it's like, really, dude? What did I do to you? How am I supposed to follow that? I know Steve's laughing right now because he remembers that. And he actually gave me a tip. He paid me extra. I'm not going to tell anybody how much, but he knows how much. But it was a lot. He took care of me. And he got his show, and the crowd got their show. There's a war story.
I love it, man. Steve's another one that's been around for so many years and has so many different tales, just like you, Terry, and has really seen and done it all. And as I read the comments, there's so many different people that are very appreciative of any advice that you've given them over the years, especially one and only Juan Munoz, who was one of our guests a couple of weeks ago. Juan's been out at your shop a couple times in recent months helping out. He said working with you has always been a big eye-opener to see firsthand how the sport was then and compared to what it is now. It's really got to be special for you to see guys like Juan really take a liking to some of the things you've done in the past to help make the future succeed.
It is. He's, right along their side, Jacob. I mean, he's in a perfect place. He's got Sammy teaching him what to do, and he's in a truck that can do so much, and he's the guy that can do it with it. And him, when those two guys are there, you're going to have a good show. And Juan, he'll work on anybody's truck, everybody's truck. He's always there to help out. I mean, I'll tell you what, how's that song go? Where can I find me a woman like that? I tell you what, he's got a great girl. She's so supportive. To see that, you're just like, right on. That's great because I never got to live that. I never got to see that kind of support. So it's awesome to see her come along and be so supportive of him and him have such a good time. And it doesn't matter. He'll drive all night to get to the show, and he's still not in a bad mood. And if stuff breaks, he's still not in a bad mood. And if their stuff don't break and mine does, guess where they're at? They're both over there working on my stuff with me. But those are the kind of guys that remind me of the beginning, like I was saying before. We're all helping each other. It's a show. If we don't put on a good show, they might not come back next year. Or they might even come back the next night because it was a good show. And those are the people you got to keep getting to come back. You could put on 10 great shows and one bad show, and it's gonna kill you. When you have guys like that are willing to work hard to get everybody going and stuff, we're loaning each other parts. It doesn't matter. We're just going to get the show through, and then we're going to sort it out at the end. I love it when Juan comes over here. His enthusiasm, I get twice as much done myself, not including the work he's doing when he's here, because I feel like so much more is happening. The same when my brother Dave or my brother Danny come here, or when Bobby Sellers comes over here. I got a few people that come and help me, and I get so much more done. And Juan, he's just so enthusiastic to work on the trucks. He just can't wait to work on the Flying High. He just loves working on that. Loves working on all these trucks. Doesn't matter which one it is. I could say, hey, Juan, we got to do this, and man, he's 100% in it. We're doing those monster trucks, and he's 100% in them. We jump over to the Boss or the Bandit. He's 100% on it. Hey, we got to go work on the Train. Absolutely. I got a few other vehicles here that are just for film, a Suburban on Deuce and a Halves and the Suzuki Samurai. And we're doing the basically it's pretty much been me and Juan doing the van, the Rolling Thunder. And we just got a bunch more of the parts for that. So, yeah, Juan, it's the weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, boy.
But, I got the motor for it now. I've got the transmission, got the rear ends, got a lot of the parts together. Like I say, we're trying to get everything kind of rolling, and I don't even mind putting motors and trannies in them and get them moving and checking them out. I like to do that first to make sure there's no broke gears or anything, and then tear it all apart and do the restoration. So.
You know, Juan's a great guy. I actually got my start in the industry through Juan, so great guy. Juan, I think he's saying you got to head over to his shop and give him a little help there, man. But we have another fan question here from Travis Palm. He wants to know what would be your advice on getting into the monster truck scene.
Well, you look at stories like Juan's, and you look at stories like Jacobs, and you look at these guys, Dallas, all these different guys. You know, they're not going to take no for an answer, and they're going to work and work and work at it. Some of them, like Dallas, wants his own truck. He's got it. You know, when I was doing it, I ended up the first several trucks I built, I never got finished. I kept selling them to people, and I kept going to work for people and selling and building their trucks. And you know, it's funny. I hear people say, "Oh, you know, yeah, that's not realistic." And I hear people always telling people, "Oh, you'll never have one." And I tell them, no, you can have whatever you want. You work hard enough for it. You have the passion for it. You just can't give up. Like, I know people get disappointed when they contact me. I get a lot of people that contact me about coming to work for me, but I have a really weird schedule. I never know if I'm going to be filming something, or if I'm going to be driving across the United States to pick up something, or if I'm going to be going somewhere and doing something else, or if I'm going to be here working. And I've got a couple people that, you know, if I need something, it's like, I tell them, yeah, if you want to come by, come by. And sometimes, like, if I need something, I'll call and go, hey, what are you doing? You know, I could really use some help on something. And I get people that are disappointed because they want to get in it and they want me to help them. And when I had 4 trucks, 5 trucks, 3 trucks, man, I got all kinds of people in the business. I mean, I was like, oh, you want to drive a monster truck? There it is. You know, I got suits that I got a blue suit that I really should put in the Hall of Fame, because I'm pretty sure I couldn't, on my best day, name all the names of all the people that have wore that suit. It's been everyone from me to my brother David, to my brother Danny, to my cousin Steve, to Rusty Weed, to Ken up in South Dakota, to Johnny. So many people have wore that suit. It's like, I don't even know what name you'd put on it, just Freedom Racing, because there's been a lot of drivers in that blue suit. And I did that a lot back then. I helped a lot of people. I had a lot of trucks. I was, you know, bringing in a lot of money. Novelty deals were different back then, and I could keep people busy all year round. And most everybody was out of Bakersfield, you know, but I'd get up to the Northwest, and I had a lot of family and friends, and sometimes I'd haul 2 trucks, and I'd go by myself and find a driver. And there's summers where I went out the whole summer without a second driver. And if I didn't find somebody, I drove them both. So, a lot of fun.
That's awesome. We have another question from Brandon Savick. He says, my 5-year-old Monstrum head Conley wants to know what your favorite monster truck is of all time, past and present.
You know, I'm going to have to say, I don't know if it's the paint job or if it's the way that he drove it in Lima or what, but Wildfoot is absolutely, I mean, I loved that truck. From the day it came out, I ended up with the body, and unfortunately, you know, I tried to change just the name in the name area. I called it the Hammer, but they very politely and rightfully so asked me to change the paint scheme, and I did. We painted it black. But I tell you what, for some reason, I just love that truck, Wildfoot. And Andy Brass, just, you know, he was a great guy, fun to run with, ran hard. Good competitor. I don't know. Maybe it's part of it was just that I liked the Bigfoot gang. I liked Bigfoot in all. You know, I liked Bob and Jim and Bob and all of them. And I liked Andy. And I love that truck. I love that paint job. I still love that paint job. I love to paint a truck like that. If they ever brought anything back other than, I know they got a lot of stuff going on. But that's a paint job. If there was ever a vote to which paint job should come back, I'm all for Wildfoot.
So you have a lot of credits in the monster truck industry. That's well documented. But I'm not sure if a lot of people know your involvement outside of monster trucks. You've done a lot of film work and have credits on movies such as Dukes of Hazzard and The Dark Knight Rises and Fast and Furious series. What got you involved in the film industry, and what are maybe some of the more memorable moments you've had working in movies?
Well, back in the early 80s, I worked for Four Wheeler Magazine, And I ended up doing some stunt driving for some photo shoots and things, and I was taking out Dr. Dooley, running it and stuff. But I got a few good stunt things there, doing some stuff with the camera and with the truck. And I think the one that really got their attention was, I think it was called like The Amazing World of Speed and Beauty or something. And Dan Pastorini, a football player, he was the host. I slid a truck up to the camera, and so that was like, hey, this is cool, and it pays good, and it's fun, and they feed you real well. So I like this. And then a couple other little things that come along. And then I got an opportunity through Gary Schott. He's like, calls me up, and I'm running my truck, and I got full bookings, and he's got this movie he wants me to do. And I'm like, well, there's like a million trucks out there. And he goes, Terry, I need somebody I can trust. I'm like, well, I appreciate it. Let me see what I can do. So I called the people I was running for, and fortunately, they were like, yeah, we'd, love to see us, do this, make a bunch of money. It helps you out and everything. Nobody got mad. Nobody said, you'll never run for me again. They let me out of my contracts, and I went and did the movie. And then the movie did very well. We had a great time in the movie. Made a lot of money, ate a lot of food, gained a few pounds. Had a good time. I got some great pictures with Elizabeth Hurley on my motorcycle, and some pictures with, what was it called? Serving Sarah was the movie. And I got to leave Cyclops named as Cyclops. They didn't have to change the name. And back then I was doing a lot of stuff with BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse. And I got to hang one of their banners in there that got shown. So they took good care of me. I had a good time. Well, then the coordinator from that show kept calling me. And calling me and calling me. And I had full bookings. I mean, I had 2 trucks running nonstop. I was making money and doing well. And I had a nice house in Missouri, a big shop, and I was building trailers and hustling Clarks and all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, you can't, I'm not going to go make less money. You can't match it. So he basically said, try me. So I'm like, well, what are you going to do? He goes, well, we're going to put your trucks in the movie. And this was for Dukes of Hazzard. We're going to put your trucks in there, and we'll rent your truck and trailer to haul your trucks. And I go, really? I'm going to bring my trucks. You're going to pay for my truck and trailer. Yeah, we're going to pay you to drive them down here. We're going to pay for your fuel. And we're going to rent your truck and trailer. And we're going to rent your monster trucks. And I'm like, and he goes, oh, and we're going to also pay you to be a Teamster. Well, let's see if I can get that in there. Right there, buddy. Teamster Local 399. Hand on the wrong side. So they're going to pay me to be a Teamster. They're going to pay me to do all this. I got stunt driving, everything else. And I'm like, I don't know. Let me see. And he goes, well, can you find me any Chargers? Well, I just so happen to have a fleet of Chargers. I mean, I've had over 400, 68, 69, 70 Dodge Chargers. And I had several at the time. So that really struck my interest when he told me it was Dukes of Hazzard, because I used to sit in front of that TV and watch that show. And I'm like, this would be so cool. So finally I said, all right, I'll do it. And I went down to Baton Rouge, started finding cars. They started picking them up, buying them. And we start building stuff. And then they decide they want to use my trailer full time. But then my monster trucks got cut out of the scene, but they used it in a scene, which I don't think anybody knows this. But if you watch the movie, when Bo and Luke are in the car and it goes backwards and gets wedged in between 2 pieces of heavy equipment, I'm actually pulling that with my monster truck off of a cable and a reel because they couldn't control it. They wanted it to stop when it got wedged at the doors. And when they tried to do it with a cable and what they call a 6-pack, it's nitrogen they use, it pulled it through and they couldn't control it. So we did it with the truck, and I felt, as soon as I felt it drag on it, I just lifted and slammed on the brakes. So we got the shot. It was great. I was the hero of the day, and I got extra cookies at catering, had a good time. But just kept going. I mean, I'm working 120, 122 hours a day, bringing in great money, getting fed, working forced calls, 7th days. They're paying for my hotel. They're giving me meal money even though I'm working all the time, so I can't spend it. They're renting my truck and trailer. They're paying for my fuel. They're insuring my stuff. And I'm going, hey, this is pretty cool. So I was going through some other things in my life that weren't going so well, so I went ahead and got rid of everything and went full-fledged into the film. Did quite a few big projects, a lot of big feature movies. Did a lot of stunt driving here and there. Usually the bigger trucks or the buses and some car stuff. On Dukes of Hazzard, I drove the It was the year one '67 Chevelle. It was silver and red, had the number 13 on the door. I drove that because it had a 540 with nitrous, and they said I was the only one allowed to drive it because they saw my blower motors in my trucks and saw my bike and said, yeah, this guy's driving. We don't want these other guys driving it. They'll blow them up. So that was fun. And then I drove a yellow Corvette in it. And I played a highway patrol, and I played sheriff. And of course, cut my hair all off for that show. But, SAG money's good and pay was good. From there, it just kept being one after another. I did the reaping. We were down in New Orleans and staying in Baton Rouge when Katrina hit. That was pretty wicked, pretty scary. You see people turn into animals over anything, over water, over ice. No gas to leave town, no food, staying in a hotel with no power. That was eye-awakening. And then we went up to Shreveport, did a few more movies. I was done there when we did Harold and Kumar, Guantanamo Bay. I was like, all right, this movie is stupid. I played the bus driver when they raided it with the FBI or whatever and smoke bombed it and stuff. And then I left and came out to California and just been working out here ever since, running all over the place, New York, Atlanta, and New Mexico, and Pittsburgh, Baltimore, all over the place. Loving it. Met a lot of great people, got a lot of great friends in the industry, got some great bosses. You couldn't ask for better. They understand when I have a commercial or a music video. That's priceless. I have people that would say, hey, you want to be in the movies or you want to be in the monster trucks or you want to do commercials? Not these people, the people I work for. They treat me so good. Couldn't be better. It's like, hey, something just came up. And they're like, when? And I said, well, today's Monday and it's Wednesday, but I got to prep it Tuesday. Like, okay, when will you be back? I says, I'll be back Thursday. And they go, well, do you want to just come back Monday? I'm like, no, I want to come back Thursday. Okay, we'll see you Thursday. And so I'm so blessed to work with so many great people. The people I work with side by side, they got my back. Nobody's trying to make themselves look better by making you look bad. We're all a team. We're teamsters. And we're out to make each other look good. And we're out to make our department look good. And that's what makes the show go well. And that's what makes the producer call back that coordinator. And that makes that coordinator call you back. And when you're working with the people that you know and you can trust and they're good, it's great. So, again, I guess what I'm leading into all this is I'm still doing a job that doesn't seem like a job. I mean, I work with great people. I have a good time. We work a lot of hours, but it's worth it. Lets me do other things I want to do. I couldn't restore these trucks if I wasn't.
So before we answer some of your fan questions, we have a lot of fan questions, so keep them coming. Keep sharing the podcast. This is a great episode so far, but I want to know, do you have any funny road stories to share?
Any what?
Do you have any funny road stories?
Oh, funny road stories. I got them all, man. I tried to do this when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I tried to be funny, and it was a miserable fail. I think I really bombed that speech. Of course, I had to follow Christopher Allen, and that guy rocked it. He had such an awesome speech, and I was winging it. I didn't have nothing wrote down, and I'm like, man, I should have Christopher write my speech. The guy was great. It was so good. I was like, so I got up there and I'm trying to be funny, but I'm going to try to tell this story again. I saw a lot of new faces, a lot of younger people in there that didn't know me. I didn't know them. And we were talking about the old days and the fun. And, when we stepped it up from our tents, which was all winter, we'd be in hotels. And when things got better and we could afford it, we obviously stayed in hotels. Our big thing was making it to the laundromat. Well, our fun was all kinds of things. You'd sit around a campfire at the fairgrounds if they let you burn a fire, and you'd crack each other up. And that's where the stuff with Gary Porter, Gary Wiggins, Dennis Anderson, just make you laugh so hard you couldn't believe it. Such great times. But we used to take, and like I said, I did this at the Hall of Fame. It didn't go over so well, but I'm going to try to be a little calmer as I say it. So you take a FedEx envelope or a UPS envelope, and I should be endorsed by them for pumping them. But anyway, open it up, go to the dollar store, get the cheapest can of whipped cream or shaving cream, doesn't matter, and you open that envelope up and you fill it up with shaving cream, and then you slide it just underneath the door of the hotel room, of someone else's hotel room, not yours. Just to where it's at the edge, where they can't see it, but it's set up. And then you knock on the door, and there's that little thing that they can see through. Well, if you're looking at it from the outside, you can actually see the shadow of the person approaching the door. Right as the shadow takes over the whole circle, you stomp on that FedEx or UPS envelope, covers them in cream, and then you run. Yeah, I know. Childish, immature, but you talk about fun. We used to spend so much time getting back at each other. I saw, let me see. Oh, I remember in Canada once somebody getting a inflatable animal put in their curtain window of their hotel room on the 3rd floor. And it was just constant, calling people's rooms and moving people's stuff out of the room into another room, or the rental cars. That's a whole nother story. I don't even know if we should talk about rental cars. I'm not really sure what the statute of limitation is on rental cars.
Oh boy.
But yeah, we got rental car stories. We definitely got rental car stories. I'm pretty sure that, what was that movie called that those two, it was a Roundy Round movie with those guys running the 2 rental cars, destroyed them. Was he called Cold Triple or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, I think they got that from one of our shows, from one of us, because I saw a lot of rental cars go through. I can say this much: if there's any advice that Terry Woodcock can give anyone out there, never buy a rental car, ever.
You know, you gotta keep yourself busy when you're out on the road. We have another comment here from Angie. She's asking about, how about the time you crushed a tough truck because you scratched your trailer and was being a jerk about it? I want to hear about this one.
How'd you
Yeah,
too?
that let me think. When was that? See, that was Wichita Falls, Texas, and my brand new hauler. This was 1996. I was at one of Ed Beckley's shows, and I had my brand new hauler, 9 days old. So I pull it over there by the doors, and I'm washing it, cleaning it all up, wiping the rims up, and I'm proud of it, nice and clean. And I notice on the side of it, somebody has scratched into the side. I can't even say what they said because I can't say it on the radio, but it's something, no sitting on the back, something. It was pretty graphic. Well, the day before, there was 4 people sitting on the back of my motorhome. It was all stainless and diamond plate, and they're sitting on the deck because I have it unhooked from my trailer where I could have it up there to wash it. And they're beating their feet against it. And this is 9 days old. And this is the nicest thing I ever had. I mean, the last thing I had before that was the 77 International Cab Over I bought from Lonnie and Jason Childress. And, that was Cadillac for me to have this motorhome, custom T600 with beds and showers and toilets and everything you could want, new paint, all stainless, beautiful. Beautiful. Most expensive thing I ever bought in my life. And they're sitting on it, kicking it with their heels. And I literally was nice about it. And I said, hey, you guys want to do me a favor and not sit on the motorhome and kick it? I mean, it's brand new, And they all look at me and they're like, I don't know, I guess they thought they were tough or something, but they jumped off and huffed under their breath and everything else. And so the next day when I'm washing it, I see all this. So, I'm mad. There's smoke coming out of my ears. I'm asking everybody, what's going on? Do you guys remember these guys? And I describe them, and like 4 or 5 different people tell me the same names. And then one guy goes, yeah, he left his truck out in the parking lot. And I'm like, he did? And this is a licensed street legal truck that they were going to use for tough trucks that night. Yeah, he left his truck in the parking lot. And I'm like, well, okay. So I got out in the parking lot and I find the truck. I pop the lock, because I know how to pop a lock. So I pop the lock. I open the glove box and I check the registration. It matches the guy's name. Good enough for me. So I close the door, pop the hood, yank the plug wires out. I'm pretty sure that this is past. Yeah, they can't get me for this now. Anyway, so I pull the plug wires out so that it won't leave, so I know it's there. We raced that night, or it's actually a daytime. It was bright daylight when we came out. There was a big show, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of tough trucks, a lot of quads. Final round, I won, went right out the back door, got the truck, shoved it away from the other cars in the parking lot, commenced to absolutely annihilated. It had a roll bar, and I had the cab smashed down flat. Roll bar stayed in place, but I shut the doors on that forever. Brought the hood down to the seat, folded the bed sides over, then backed up, went over and pulled it back inside to sign autographs, came back out with a can of paint and painted "Sit on This" on the side of their truck, and then slit all 4 of their brand new radial, pretty nice tires, and then went in and signed autographs. And as I was walking away with the paint can and the knife in my hand, I looked at all the tough truck drivers and the quad racers, and I go, "Anybody see anything? Anybody got a problem?" And it's like, no, we're good. We're all good. And so went and signed autographs, packed up my stuff, left. Got a call about 3 days later from an officer asking me questions. I said, "Yeah, we got this report that you drove over a car in the parking lot." And I go, "Hold on, officer, let me check." And I'm making these sounds, and he's like, I go, "Yeah, I just checked my wallet and all my pockets. Couldn't have been me." He goes, "Why is that?" And I go, "Because I don't do nothing for free, and there's no extra money in my pocket, so I couldn't have done it." He goes, "Well, so you telling me you didn't do this?" And I go, "No, officer, I absolutely did not do it. I mean, if I did it, I should have more money in my pocket, So yeah, maybe I lied, but whatever. Sometimes you do right thing for wrong reason. Sometimes you do the wrong thing for the right reason. Who knows?" But so he goes, "Well, Mr. Woodcock," and I said, "Yes." And I can't remember his name anymore. Hopefully he doesn't call me after this and say, but anyway, he goes, "I just want to let you know that I have a job to do, and my job is, to investigate crimes and follow up on this. And as far as I'm concerned, this case is closed." And I said, "Oh, okay, officer." And he goes, "Oh, and one more thing off the record." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "These guys are dirt bags. They're POSs. They do nothing but steal, vandalize. They're druggies. They're worthless. So I love it. I love what you did." And I go, "I wish I could take credit, officer, but yeah, if I find out who did, I'll make sure and tell them you appreciated it." So yeah, Angie, now you got me to confess on TV. Now they're going to come get me.
Well, she said TMI.
Uh-oh, my mom. Oh.
Oh, no.
Love you, Mom. That was like in 1996 because the motorhome was 11 days old. So that was February of 96. 2006, 16, 24 years. I'm good, Mom. If I'm not, we put some money in that bank into jail.
It wasn't him. He didn't do it. He didn't have any extra money in his pocket.
Check the report. Check the police report. It says I didn't do it.
Long story short, don't mess with Terry's new hauler.
Well, yeah, we got another question from my good buddy Wayne Scotty. He wants to know, what was your favorite time out of the truck in the pits, and what's your favorite hobby outside of monster trucks?
My favorite time out of the truck in the pits is when nobody's in a big hurry to leave to get to the next show. Like maybe we have another show the next day and nobody's stuff's tore up. Nobody's in a hurry to get back anywhere, and we can all just sit. We usually gather in one trailer. A lot of times it's mine. I do have a air-operated beer can crusher that, by the way, I will say Donald with Titan loves my can crusher. A friend of mine made that in the film industry, and it's a good way to get a lot of free aluminum cans. Everybody comes to your trailer to drink beer. I don't drink, but I can still have a lot of fun with everybody who does. But I would say gathering around in the trailer, everybody just getting together and talking, the war stories, the bench racing, talking about the old times. The younger guys always like to hear the stories, because they just can't imagine some of the stuff that we used to do. We used to drive the cars onto the track and park them. We used to pop the trunks of these cars. Most of the cars back in the day, I was always volunteering. I got paid, but I always be like, "Hey, I'll build the track. I'll set the track." You run the forklift and you pop all the trunks. Most of these are impounded cars. They're full of snap-on tools, stereos, everything you can imagine. I'm like scoring saws, tools, torque wrenches, impacts, all kinds of stuff. You wouldn't believe. I found money in them, everything you can imagine, guns, knives. And they just, when you talk to the newer guys about that, they can't imagine it because the cars, they've already been stripped out, cleaned out and everything when they see them. They can't imagine driving a car up there and going, "Hey, this thing's got a 440 in it. I'm going to pull that." And This thing's got a 4-speed in it. I mean, it might sound a little trivial and ridiculous, but there's a lot of good cars that we crushed. I'm actually collecting for some form of a book I'm going to do, and it's not necessarily a book to sell to make money, but I am collecting all the pictures of all the monster trucks crushing cars, and I've got Camaros, Chevelles, 68 Chargers, 69 Chargers, 70 Chargers, Mustang Fastbacks, Vegas, so many cool cars that we've crushed. Because in the 80s, you could go buy that car for $600, $400. So I got quite a collection, along with my other collection, picture collection. I have quite a collection of muscle cars that have been destroyed by monster trucks. It kills me, but I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We did it.
And you've done some wild stuff with your trucks over the years, Terry. And had a lot of unique build with your trucks. And I know I've seen a lot in the comments are mini monster dads. And I was talking to my buddy Brian Anger earlier, and he was asking me a little bit more information on the mini Cyclops that used to run around back in the day. Can you tell us about it?
That was pretty much single-handedly built by Tom Finch. He lives here in Bakersfield. He had a motorcycle wreck out in the desert, and he's in a wheelchair now. But you talk about a fabricator. The guy builds custom racing and competitive and X-game wheelchairs. You got to see it, son. If you know anybody that's in a wheelchair, I mean, this guy is so magnificent. You know, he posts pictures of himself building his front porch. I'm not in a wheelchair, and I can't build a front porch. The guy, nothing's going to hold him down. The guy's so talented. He's the one who did all the fabrication work when Unnamed and Untamed went from tractor tire sitting in the regular seat to sitting up front in the hood. He did all that work, that frame and all those brackets and mounts, and did all that. He's the one that built Nasty Habits into the tractor tire truck before I turned it into a monster truck. We always worked together. We worked on the Cyclopses, both of them. We were out touring the Cyclops most of the time while he built 98.5% of baby Cyclops. It has been getting restored. Not me. The Gardner family owned the truck, and they had USA 1, and Gary since passed away, but his brother Greg is restoring it. I've spoke with his daughter a little bit in Oregon, and I'm not the kind of person that's going to say, no, you can't, because it was their family, it was their life, and it's what they did, and I think it's cool. I mean, I've got a couple of mini monster trucks I started years ago that are in those video cassettes that still aren't done, but I got a set of planetary rear ends for a mini that I'll probably be doing with Bobby Sellers, for his grandson. We were going to do it for his son, and now it's more to be for his grandson. And then we're doing a couple of half scale, I would say, independent suspension mini monster trucks that are going to be coming out of here not too long. Been doing some stuff with Joel Dozer Bushman up in Salt Lake City, up in Woods Cross. Just came back from there where he spent a couple days in front of his computer. He taught me a lot about CAD. He taught me a lot about the designing and being able to recycle everything through the stuff that Bob Chandler's been doing forever, but the programs are just unbelievable. I can barely get my computer turned on. My concern was that I'd be able to do this tonight because I didn't know if I could literally do it. But got some things going on with Joel, some really cool stuff. Going to do some mini monster truck stuff. He's got a couple of full-size trucks going up there now, and he's got a couple of minis going. And we're doing some stuff together with some chassis for some restorations, because some of the frames, I don't have all the frames. Some of them I just have the body of a truck. Some I have the frame. There's different stuff. So determined over some of the damage on some of the stuff that we're going to build some frames. So we sat down and went through the design. I told him what I wanted, and he put it all on the computer and whizzed it out and showed me what it is. And so he'll do the frames, spring hangers and stuff, and then we'll bring them down here and finish them up, put rear ends and stuff underneath them, and springs and engine, transfer case, and bodies. But he's going to do some stuff with the mini monsters too, the half-scale monsters. We're just, I went up there for the 4th of July, watched the fireworks on the side of the mountain. It was like a battle zone. It was so lit up. I was like, I'm not used to this, because in California, even though it's illegal, you see some. but not like that. The whole side of that mountain, Bountiful and Woods Cross, was lit up. We walked out of the shop because he works in the shop late, and we walked out and watched the fireworks. It's pretty cool, and went back in and did some work. We got some pretty cool stuff coming out, and I'll have Juan here helping me, and I'll have Gary Schott in here helping me, and David will be in here helping me. My brother Danny will be helping me. I always got my mom and my brother Tony up there full force supporting me. Things get tight. I'm like, hey. But I got the greatest family in the world. I have so much support. I've had such a great life. I mean, all my brothers, my mom, my cousins, everybody, just my aunts, my uncles. Always, they say it takes a village, and I always felt like I was a village idiot. But I don't know. I think they did an okay job. I stayed out of trouble. I did a few things, but it's been a good life, been an awesome life. I can't wait to get this show going for these people to see what I've got. I've got things nobody's seen yet, and I can't talk about them. I don't want to talk about them. You've got to have some surprises. You just have to. I got trailers back there just packed full of trucks and packed full of things, and it's so hard not to. It's so hard not to, because people love it and they love to see it, and I love to share it, but gotta keep a few secrets. But there's some cool stuff that's going to be coming out of this building, either soon on TV or soon without TV, one way or the other.
And Terry, if I were you, I'd rewatch the podcast when you can, because there's a lot of heartwarming comments from people, and it's pretty cool to see. But we have another comment from someone who's going to be probably working for you tomorrow. It is Juan Munoz. He wants to know, was there ever a time you saw a car you just simply could not crush and you had to pull it out, or you just felt so bad after you did crush it?
A lot of felt so bad after I did, but unofficially, yeah, we replaced a car once. It was a 69 Dodge Charger. We slid it out of there. It barely had scratches on one side and a small dent on the fender. Perfect grill in it. I mean, a grill for a 69 Charger now sells for like $3,500. And I talked to the wrecking guy, and I ended up working out a deal with it. And I had to go through more trouble than anything to get a title for it, but I got a title for it eventually because it was already run through the scrap yard and everything, so I had to do the salvage title bonded thing and everything. But I pulled that one out. There's several I wanted to pull out. I mean, little 60, most of the cars back there we were crushing was big stuff, real cool stuff. But when you see, some of the stuff like the 64 Novas and the 67 Novas and the 66, 67 Chevelles, and 68 Camaros, 70 Chevelles. I bet we've crushed, I bet I've seen 24 70, 71 Chevelles. I have a 70 454 4-speed numbers matching Chevelle. So that killed me to do that every time I did it, because at that time I didn't have one. I had one before, but I didn't have one. So it killed me to see the cars that we've destroyed. But yeah, there's been more than a lot of times we pulled carburetors off of them, pulled motors out of them, pulled trannies out of them. Perfectly good stuff. Like I said, we drive the cars up. After a while, they started making us, take the gas tanks out or drain the gas tanks and pull the batteries. I remember crushing cars and the horn starts honking. I remember driving over cars and cats taking off running everywhere, and they shut the show down, had to make sure all the cats were out of the car safely. But yeah, those old impound cars, they were interesting. There's a few times we had to have the law come remove some things we found in the cars. But we found everything you could imagine. Pretty crazy.
Like Vinny was saying, you got to rewatch this. There are a lot of questions praising you for everything you've done. Just like this one coming up here from a guy you've run with frequently, Jacob Ladwig. He says, Terry, absolutely my favorite legend to do shows with. I cannot wait to get back on the track and hang out in the trailers.
Oh, absolutely. This guy, he knows I love food. What do they do? Sammy's Motorhome. Every morning they come and get me. It's like, hey, you want breakfast? Serving me bacon and eggs and potatoes and bread and milk. And at night when it's all over with, hey, you hungry? It's like, that's like, probably an easy question to answer yourself. So, not only will he jump in there and work on your truck, fix things, Sammy will come over there. Sammy's fixed my hauler a few times. He's fixed several things. He's always the guy I call when something's tough to figure out. He's got all those Predators. I bought out Predator. He's got them all because that's the guy who's going to figure them out. He's the one that's going to dial them in and get them rebuilt because people want to buy them from me, but I don't want to sell them unless they work because I don't want people upset with me. And I can't just go, well, I'll just sell you a Predator. And then, 2 weeks or a month later, I'm being badmouthed because there's junk. So Sammy's going to get them all fixed. I'm going to get the ones I need for mine, and then I'm going to sell the rest. Sammy and Jacob, they rebuilt several motors for me. They did the blower motor for Flying High. They did all the motors for the Boss, the Bandit, the Rocket, the truck from Herbie. I got 7 big blocks back there lined up. He's got 2 more down there I got to pick up and 4 transmissions. So Sammy and Jacob have been helping me out a lot. There's a lot of people see the few posts I do showing some of this stuff, and they don't realize how many people are out there making it possible. Whether it's I'm definitely not too proud to say, like sometimes things are good, sometimes they're not. If I get short on money and I need to do something, my mom's always been there. My brother's always been there, all of them. Every one of them have loaned me money, and I paid every one of them back, and they've loaned it to me, and I paid them back. I used to have a motto when I first got in the business, when I was at Ed's 4x4, and I had all those trucks, because as soon as one would get done, we'd start another one. And it was, if I know you, I owe you. But I'd take the trucks out, we'd run them, we'd come back, I'd pay everybody back, start building the next truck, get about halfway done with it, start putting my hand back out. Pat's grandma would always send me off with a big bag of the best cookies you could ever imagine in your life. When I built the Wild Thing tractor tire truck, it was originally called Whiplash. It was painted red. And I took it up to Washington and did a show, and then went over to visit my mom and dad, my grandma, my grandpa. And bless her heart, my grandma, Helen, she loaned me the money for the paint job for the Wild Thing, as you see it on the cover of the magazines. And all that Wild paint job, she loaned me the money for that paint job. I paid her back, like I always paid everybody back. But you talk about a supportive family. My cousin, Steve McCabe, always there, whatever it was. We were up there doing a lot of shows in Washington, doing a lot of stuff up there. I'm blowing motors, tearing stuff up. Between Steve, getting my truck bodies into the body shops and taking care of, and getting his company to sponsor us and everything else. There's a lot of stuff up there. It's like somebody we haven't talked about, Bill Payne. I look at that guy and I see me times 2 in him. He's just the hardest working guy out there. He works so hard. He gets so much done. He's doing all that stuff. And when I got into this, I wanted to have 8 monster trucks, 2 ride trucks, and a tank. And, I was going to, tear the world apart with this stuff. And that guy, he's got everything. He's got the robots. He's got the tanks. He's got the trucks. He's got the ride trucks. He does everything in-house. It's hard to do. We've done everything in-house. We don't do everything in-house anymore. Might have something to do with the fact that I'll be 60 the 22nd. I think I already said that. But Bill Payne, all his guys, helpful, respectful. I went up and did a show for Rob Wallachuk up in Saskatoon, and I used to run for Rob all the time. I always loved going up to Canada, running those shows, and I loved doing Saskatoon. It was freezing cold, like seriously 40 below. You'd have to drive your truck inside, leave it in overnight, and open the doors to get it cooled enough for the grease to thaw out in the axles to pull it out of the trailer. But blew up a rear end in my truck, and every one of Bill's guys, including Bill, were over there because we had an afternoon show and an evening show. Broke it in the afternoon show, and everybody jumped in, 100%. I seen Bill hustling. A lot of times the owners might slack a little bit. I hope to think I never have. I don't think I have, but I see guys, if they don't have to, they don't. Not Bill. Bill's in there, 100%. Those guys all thrashed, had my truck tore apart, everything cleaned up. We put everything back together. They put everything back. I was just like, wow, what a guy. I mean, when I first met him, I was selling chassis to, they were actually going to a promoter, but they were going to Don King. So Don King ended up with 5 of my chassis: the Barefoot truck, the Charger, and the old Cyclops and the Venom, and the ones I had sold to Rex Smith. I don't even know what they were named then. I think they were Congo Kong at one time and Awesome Kong at one time, and a few different names. Anyway, he ended up with all those, but that stuff, that Bill ended up with some of that stuff. But when I met Bill, he came to pick up one of those chassis. That's how I met Larry Quick. He came to pick up the other chassis, another extremely hard-working guy that just does everything in-house and just will not give up, will not quit. I mean, the guy's awesome. But just kept working at it. So when I really got to know Bill was when he came to Illinois. He still had the open trailer. He bought his first enclosed trailer from me, and I took his drop deck trailer in trade because I'm a wheeler dealer. I don't care if there's $1 to be made. I'm going to do it. I sold him his trailer. We stuck some ramps in there to get his Jeeps in there, and slid a brand new set of back doors in there with it and sent him on his way. And the next time I saw the trailer, it's all graphicked up, cool on the side. I mean, when he knows how to promote, he knows how to make people know he's rolling into town. That's for sure.
All right, we got three more comments here for you. All of them giving you the biggest praise. We got this one here coming from Julie. She said, "We are so proud of you, Terry. Honored to be part of your village," referring back to that little village comment you meant.
Yeah.
We also have one from Levi Schoen. Said, "You're a legend, Terry. Keep that eyeball rocking." And then last but not least, coming out of the Straight Up Racing Camp, we got Dallas Glenn Rogers. Said, "This has been the best episode yet. Thank you, Terry, for everything you have done for this industry."
Oh, man, that's all awesome, Dallas. It's great. I love your truck. You were so nice to me when I went up there to you guys' deal you did for that. I mean, what Bill and all you guys did for your neighborhood, putting on that show. Everybody's locked up, can't go anywhere, can't do anything. The smiles on those kids' faces. That was one of the most awesome things I've seen. That you guys didn't do that for money, didn't make money. That was strictly for the community, for the people, and that was cool. And I thank everybody for everything they said, nice, Levi and everything. And Julie, I had such a great time visiting with you and the kids and the grandkids. And I mean, just sitting there in the lawn chair talking about the old times and stuff is great. I'm fortunate. Very fortunate.
Well, Terry, I hate to bring it to a close here, but I'll tell you, we've gone 2 hours here. It's been phenomenal.
Have we?
Learned so much. I don't know if you know, we've gone 2 hours.
Yeah, I see that up there now. Yeah.
And I hate to end it because we still have a lot of people here watching, so we're definitely going to do a part 2 in the very near future.
Yeah.
But
I'll try to get the shop set up where we can set it up in the shop where I can have my things I need to hide put away. I'll have a shop full of things that people already know I have, and then maybe we can have some cool backdrops, some interesting, tour or something.
Well, you heard it there. Part 2 may be coming in the near future.
All right.
We'll get it going. And usually I end episodes like this with a very, kind of wrap it up question. But since we're going to probably come back and talk to you pretty soon, what do you have planned for the future for Cyclops?
Well, we are doing a half scale, and one of them will be a Cyclops. We're doing 2 or 3 of them. We haven't determined yet. Something I'm working with my brothers and working with Joel. And I do want to bring back some of the bodies. I want to bring some of the styles. This truck it's long and it's heavy, and we want to build a couple of trucks like we always built back in the 90s. Shorter wheelbase, lighter, motor up a little further, motor back a little further. What I call ill handling, my favorite truck, something that you got to drive every minute, and you can drive it. You can drive it hard and fast, and it stays together a lot better, and it stands up effortlessly. It was like I heard people talking about the trucks that Don King got from me, how they wheelied and everything. And it's like, that's one thing that I just always love doing. I love wheeling without touching the wheelie bar. I love freestanding dead stop wheelies. It's just the adrenaline. There can't be any drug, alcohol, or anything that can make you feel the way it feels to have that horsepower and have that truck stand straight up and down and you're balancing it. It's awesome. So yeah, we want to do a new truck. Dave and I have been talking about it a lot. Danny's always jumping right in. It's like, they both know we're all going to hurt at the end of the day, but they're going to be right here beside me. Bobby's going to be here all the time helping. Gary will be coming up helping. We got like 3 trailers right now. We got to build ramps in because we're trying to hide a bunch of the trucks in the trailers, and I just picked up 3 more triple drops. So we'll ramp those out, stuff trucks in them, hide stuff so we can start showing more pictures of what we're doing without things being seen in the background that we don't want seen. Got to keep the mystery.
You always have to leave everybody wanting a little more, Terry. It's been a complete honor to have you on here tonight. We have learned so much, and the crazy part is we've only scratched the surface. So I can't wait to talk to you again, and I think everybody can agree with that. This has been amazing having you on.
Well, depending on how soon it is, we might have some fun with my hair and my beard because I know my mom's going to jump in on this comment, but I got to get rid of this thing. But I want to do some funky lamb chops and a mullet and a few things on the way out, before I cut it all up. So you never know what I might look like next time. It might be worth tuning in just for that.
Do a Dennis Anderson stash.
Yeah, I'm thinking definitely. Yes. Gonna have some fun cutting this stuff all off.
Well, you're exactly right, Terry. It's been a pleasure. For those of you that want to keep following Terry on social media, we've been running his Facebook and Instagram pages on the bottom scroll throughout the evening, so make sure you like and follow him on all the different platforms, and make sure you reshare this video with everyone and keep rewatching it and check out all of our other past episodes and just continue to keep learning here on the podcast. Terry, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor, like I said, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
See you, Terry.
All right, thanks a lot. So do we have a closing statement? Do I get to make my closing statement?
Sure, please do.
Go ahead.
I got to, because that's what I thought we were going to do the whole time, and I just wanted to talk about. So many people see my truck now, and they see all the cool work on it. That all the dimples and the cool stuff cut out, and some of the awesome welding and some of the cool things. And that's all Mike Freeze in Quincy, Illinois, at Courtesy Towing. That guy, when I met him, it was like unbelievable. This guy's so into what he's doing. I mean, and he'll sit there in the shop till midnight, cut me out shock brackets, and it got to be where it was a joke with Mike because he would tell me, "Oh yeah, we do it nice because we do it twice because I'll bring him some brackets and we'll make some stuff, and then I decide I want to change it, and I come back and he goes, didn't we already do these?" And I go, "Well, we did a different version of them." But yeah, Mike Freeze is the reason the Cyclops that you've seen at the World Finals and that you see now looks so cool. That's what I wanted my closing statement to be. I don't know that he's into internet so much. I don't know that he's watching. I don't know, maybe Sterling's watching. I know Tyler Hill's probably watching. There's got to be some guys from Quincy watching that can let him know how much I appreciate everything he did for me building that truck.
Well, Terry, it was an honor having you on. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure Vincent and Phil learned some stuff that even Phil didn't really know because Phil's got some stories going. But Terry, I am honored to have you on the podcast. I hope we are able to have you on sometime soon.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to not incriminate myself next time, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right. See you later, Terry.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, everybody, for all your kind comments. I'll read them right when I get done here.
All right. Well, I'm on the verge of crying right now.
Terry,
you look like Moses.
Yeah, what can you say?
Terry's
one of a kind guy, and that was a one of a kind podcast. We probably could have kept going there for another hour.
Sure.
So, but it's always good kind of leave them with a mystery, as Terry said. And one thing is for sure, we'll definitely have Terry back on in the near future. Find some more stories to talk about. Maybe look around the shop a bit and see what he's got going on because he has so many different projects going on at Freedom Racing.
Oh yeah, I know I had a blast.
Moses will definitely return, but we're going to talk about next week. What to expect next week. Phil, you know this guy very well. You guys are practically best friends. So, I'm just going to play the video, and then we'll let Phil close the episode.
Next week, we're bringing on Preston Perez, who's most well known for driving higher education and Monster Art Rottweiler on the Triple Threat Series. Now, I know you're thinking, that's kind of an East Coast team with Vodder's Motorsports, but Preston, he's a West Coast boy. That's where he's from. He grew up there. He had his first events out here in the West Coast, and he's really one of those West Coast up-and-coming drivers that is now an up-and-coming driver that has competed all around the country. I've known him for forever. I mean, that's definitely well known, and I can't wait to have him on here next week, get to learn more about Preston and some of his upbringing and what got him from driving Nasty Boy all the way to Monster Mutt Rottweiler. It's been a great time here on the Monster Truck Outlaw of the West podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe our page and this video with Terry Woodcock. If you haven't watched some of our past podcasts, make sure you go back on our video feed, check those out as well. We've interviewed a lot of great veterans and rising stars here on the West Coast. And as always, we thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.